So there's a guy on YouTube named Rick Beato, and I totally understand where he's coming from because as a professional musician, I can see why it's difficult in this day and age to try to listen to anything on the radio at the moment or create in general. But I think the element that he's missing and the answer to Rick Beato in general is novelty. In the 70s and the 60s and in the early 80s, rock was king. And in the early 90s, it was kind of tapering off, but we're having a little resurgence from things like grunge and things like that. But what happened, I think, is beyond the way business works, corporate factors and all this stuff, there's a novelty in the creative process where if you realize you can do something, you don't want to necessarily keep doing it. Now, I'm playing the devil's advocate with this whole notion. So I don't necessarily, believe that I should be doing the same thing. But what I'm saying is these people are capable of making songs in a certain way, like 70s style songs or earlier. They are capable of doing all these things so easily that they can just churn. So there's not a novelty component. So what's novel? And so then what becomes the focus is the novelty. So if I know I can do all those things and I can just bang it out, that means other people are catching up with the theory and they're going to be able to just bang them out as well. That's why you see a trend. Not only is it a way of gatekeeping on the whole of the industry, but it's also just because so many people can do it, so it's not novel. So that's another element of it. And another element is the complement of having a simple process to then say, this is music. So if you can lay down a vocal, put a isotope processor on the vocal with auto-tune as well, and then lay down a beat and a bass and call that a song, then you're that much closer to feeling gratified in your own glory, So those are two examples of the answer to the phenomenon of why music is stayed in this stagnant place. Now, eventually, somebody has to do some creative, bust out, really great music, but that doesn't necessarily mean they'll bust out into the top like people like Michael Jackson, Led Zeppelin, because then we also have the issue of the paradigm shift, where the media became me media, where it became now everyone's going to be a star. And I actually believe that's a good thing because people are mostly very talented people. And I think that to glorify and over-glorify people puts pressure on the celebrities, but it also puts a false idol quality on them as well. And as a person who's very talented, I know that I don't want to have to keep raising my own bar. I just want to be me as my talented person. And so I don't want somebody over there and somebody over there, et cetera, to have to compete because it truly is not the way of the talented people. The talented people are about developing their way and learning from others and that kind of thing. So those are some examples of why people get stuck on obsessing that music has faltered. But the main one from the creative perspective that I just realized just a couple of days ago was the fact of, man, when I do a new thing, a new idea, a creative idea, I don't want to have to go and do 100 of those or, whatever. I just want to do that one and move on and do that one and move on. So if you think about like on a broader scale, like songwriting, okay, well, I can write a song. I don't want to do 5,000 songs because I can write a song. Now, that was a way of doing things, and there's incredibly talented people who became so immersed with that as their whole life. Whereas that's one thing in the component box, in the toolbox. So now, what else? What else to make it novel?